Welcome to the Trend Detection Podcast, powered by Siemens.
Hello and welcome to Trend Detection. I'm your host, Emily Johnson, and today we are joined by Tamsin Turner to discuss the different phases of a predictive maintenance deployment. So, hi Tamsin.
Hello.
Thank you so much for joining us today. It's a pleasure to have you here. So to start off, could you give us an intro about yourself and your role at Siemens?
Of course, yes, no problem. So, Tamsin Turner, I'm a business development manager at Siemens, predominantly looking after clients who are interested in exploring predictive maintenance solutions, also known as Senseye. So my main role is to help customers understand at which stage they are in their transformation journey, and to help them adopt the technology in order to drive various business objectives that they may have.
That's a great intro. Thank you for giving us a bit of an insight on what you do. So I guess for clients who are looking to adopt predictive maintenance, it'd be really kind of great to hear a little bit more about the value of predictive maintenance and kind of the expected benefits of what customers would like to receive when kind of looking into this type of product. So if you could kind of go over the expected benefits, that would be really helpful.
Yeah, sure, no problem. So first of all, the benefits of implementing a predictive maintenance solution in any organisation is huge. So if you're an organisation that is currently collecting data and doing nothing with it, the art of the possible is enormous. The great thing about Senseye Predictive Maintenance is that it offers information that can drive various business objectives depending on what the client's end goal is. So, for example, you may have a maintenance team that are perhaps over-maintaining equipment, and therefore we can use the data-driven insights from Senseye in order to make them more efficient and reduce things like inventory, spares, and cost of resources as well. Likewise, it can also impact and help customers that are perhaps under-maintaining and are in a constant state of reactivity with their machines and their assets. And again, the insights can help them become more efficient and get on top of those issues. Overall, customers will see a huge impact to overall asset lifetime, which is really important in this day and age where businesses are under constant pressure to do more with less. Obviously, there's a huge green agenda now. We all need to be more sustainable and really maximise the usage of all materials. And this is where Senseye can really help drive correct and precise maintenance in the areas where it's most needed. And sort of removes all the white noise to allow maintenance teams to really apply their efforts in the right places. So there's cost savings to be had, improvement in resourcing efficiency, and also huge boost to sustainability credentials as well for clients.
So I like that you touched on the topic of over-maintenance. From a listener perspective and actually from a personal perspective, it'd be great to hear a little bit more about what over-maintenance means, because under-maintenance is pretty much self-explanatory. It raises red flags that, machine health isn't great, but over-maintenance might be a little bit more less known, so it'd be great to hear a bit more about your experience in terms of over-maintenance and what that actually means.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So yeah, as you mentioned, under-maintenance can often generate instances of unplanned breakdowns and things that are not predicted that may cause additional costs or the requirement for additional labour. Whereas over-maintenance can also generate challenges in the fact that there's more cost associated with constantly buying new parts. There's also costs associated with having resources on site to monitor the assets and maintain the assets and those types of things. From a sustainability point of view, obviously it's really important that businesses are trying to maximise their asset lifetime, maximise the lifespan of the materials that they're using, and that's where Senseye can really make a difference, and predictive maintenance can really difference by giving maintenance teams that look into the future and those prognostic insights that will allow them to forecast when a part will fail. So that removes the need for over maintenance. It removes the need for intervention any sooner than it needs to occur. We can give that precise information on when a part will need to be changed, and ultimately that has an impact on procurement and, as I mentioned, sustainability.
That's great, thank you, Tamsin. That's such a insightful definition, and I feel like might clear up a bit of confusion for listeners, because there's a lot of terms that go on in the predictive maintenance world, and I feel like it's really helpful for people to actually know what these terms mean. So moving on, apart from understanding the initial benefits of deploying a PdM platform, what can customers do to actually prepare for success? So what can they do on their side before going in and adopting this platform so it ensures success? So maybe in terms of data and data preparation, it'd be really great to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, sure. So one important factor, I would say, is a willingness for an organisation to change culturally and adopt the technology and really use it. It's very easy to adopt a technology and just have it sitting there in the background, and what we don't want to happen is for predictive maintenance insights to just become another form of data. Yeah. The insights that it offers are really powerful. So one of the first things that I look for when engaging with a customer is that maturity in terms of wanting to get the best out of it. So as an immediate step, having a strong project team who are willing to engage with us and collaborate and learn and are just enthusiastic about the art of the possible is always a really, really good point. Customers that have data available, fantastic. That just accelerates the process for us, but it's not necessarily a fundamental requirement to come and talk to us. The reason being is we can provide advice on particular data that would be best to use for predictive maintenance. Not all data is technically good data for us. So even if you're a customer at the really, really early stages, perhaps not collecting any data at all, we'd be happy to come and assess the machines, understand your operation, understand what the overall business objectives as well, and then we can give some advice on the most relevant data to extract in order to drive those business goals. So as I say, data is important, but not necessarily fundamental. The most important thing I would say is having that desire to want to put that data into some sort of action and use it to drive specific outcomes.
That's brilliant. Thank you, Tamsin. And I can imagine that's quite reassuring for some listeners who don't feel like they have all the ducks in a row when going into a PdM project, so they can go in, they can get advice on what they need to do with their data.
Yeah. As
you said, you don't need to have all data available. It's the certain types that are needed, and they can be assisted with that. So that's a really helpful insight into that topic. So thank you for providing that. So as we move on, it'd be really great to cover some topics around the design phase. So after a PdM project has been agreed, it moves on to the design phase. So in terms of choosing assets, from your experience, how would you say that clients in the past have selected assets for predictive maintenance, and kind of what components have came into that selection process?
Yeah, sure. The first thing to debunk, I suppose, is the need for critical assets to be monitored as priority. A lot of customers think that the most critical assets are the ones that you should onboard first. But what we typically tend to find is with critical assets that have a huge impact if they were to fail in an operation, is that they're usually well maintained. They're usually identified as a critical asset, and so maintenance is usually focused on keeping those assets moving. So what we tend to look for to start a predictive maintenance project is assets that are seeing the most number of breakdowns. Those assets may not necessarily be your critical assets, but what we want to do is make an impact, and quickly. And the way to do that is for us to mitigate any breakdown risks and capture failures before they happen. So by identifying which assets are causing the most problem and creating are seeing the most downtime hours, those are typically the best assets to start with. The next step from that is predictive maintenance works best at scale. So it's always important to have a plan to scale from those assets to drive continuous improvement and drive continuous return on investment.
So thank you, Tammy. That was a really insightful explanation onto that topic. So kind of touching again on identifying failures, it'd be really great if you could explain how Senseye Predictive Maintenance actually identifies these failures and how clients are related of these problems.
Sure, no problem. So at a high level, we use 3 different types of feedback to generate cases to alert maintenance engineers to an issue. The 3 types of feedback we use are measure information, so that would be the machine data, things like pressure, current, torque, vibration. We also use an element of human feedback as well, so how issues have been previously responded to, and also some operational context as well about the machines and the usage of those machines. And using a combination of that, we're able to analyse it and produce insights or raise cases that draw attention to things that are really critical on the factory floor. And it's done in a really clever way that removes all of the white noise for the engineer as well. One of the things that predictive maintenance and Senseye Predictive Maintenance particularly overcomes is really streamlining data for customers to make it usable and actionable. We see a lot of customers who just have tons and tons of data and they just don't know which way to look. Using a combination of measure, operational and human context, we can then produce these really strong intelligent insights that direct the engineers in the right places at the right time.
Again, super insightful information. Thanks so much, Tammy. I'm just going to scroll to our next questions. So moving on to our deployment phase, it'd be really good to kind of touch on the topic of kind of installation challenges and data management. So what are some of the challenges that you've came across in that area, and in particular storage and that type of topic? I feel like that is something that customers have quite a bit of concern about, so it'd be really great for you to share a bit of insight into that.
Yeah, sure. So in terms of challenges with enabling predictive maintenance, of course, firstly, you need some sensing equipment to obtain data from the machines. You would then need an element of edge processing to collect that information, a storage facility, some sort of data storage facility that has the ability to push data to the Senseye cloud. In terms of overcoming those challenges, Siemens have a full portfolio of solutions that can answer every single one of those challenges. So they shouldn't be seen as challenges, really, even though a customer may see it as a challenge. They're really not challenges. We help customers overcome these types of things all the time. We always make recommendations as well in order to generate the maximum value for the customer as well. So, we simply wouldn't be recommending technology if they didn't need it. We like to use as much data that the customer has as possible. as part of that, we do a lot of scoping to understand the types of machines that they have and the data availability at that stage, and then we can help them fill in the gaps from there if they do have any gaps. So although they are challenges, as I say, and customers may see them as challenges, we've got all the tools to help them overcome those challenges with initial setup and implementation.
Oh no, that's brilliant. And again, I think that's extremely reassuring for listeners. And I guess in terms of configuration, you've kind of answered that the team will be on hand to help out with any configuration issues. So it is a very people-focused deployment, and there is always somebody on hand if you are having any technical issues, and that can be resolved. So I think that is a really a nice touch for the Senseye Predictive Maintenance team and Siemens as a whole to provide, because I can imagine with a business who is new to this product, it might be a little bit unnerving. So that is a great service that is available.
Absolutely. And one of the biggest misconceptions as well that we hear from customers all the time is they come with this notion that they need to have a team of data scientists sat in the background to be able to launch predictive maintenance, and that's really not the case. As you say, we have a really dedicated team that are on hand to support customers every step of the way, no matter what stage in their journey they are. So as I've mentioned, we've got so many different solutions and services out there that can help fill in the gaps. It's really about getting to grips with the customer, understanding their challenges, and providing solutions that are really going to make a difference.
Again, that's great. Such helpful information, and again, super reassuring for the listeners that, as you said, no matter what stage you are at, you can go in and that assistance is going to be on hand, and a difference to your operations can be made. So again, that is super helpful information. So looking at the refine phase, so obviously once a system is integrated and it is in motion, how would you recommend that clients handle workflows and system integration?
Yeah, sure. So as going back to something we discussed earlier about the initial implementation and the way that we select assets. So we always start off with the most critical asset. We always start off with the assets that are seeing the most breakdowns, not necessarily the most critical assets. But as I mentioned earlier, it's really important to have a plan to scale from the beginning as well. Senseye Predictive Maintenance can monitor thousands of assets all in one place. And in order to drive business objectives and really see the efficiencies and the cost savings, it's really important to roll the technology out to as many assets as possible, so you've got more chance of preventing failure, essentially. So scalability, the continuous improvement through scaling is something that is focused on as a next step to the project. Also, we look at ways that we can continue to innovate the whole experience, and what I mean by that is, so the engineers using Senseye, they're getting some really good insights from Senseye, but can we make their life any easier? And sometimes that's done through integrations. We offer CMMS integration. We offer integration with lots of different platforms, and it's really about just refining at that point and making the engineer's job as easy as possible. Perhaps that means aggregating various data streams into one place, or maybe some tweaks on how the information's presented. But we have a customer success team, Senseye customer success team, who will continuously work with the customer after that initial onboarding phase, once they've realised the return on investment, to sort of say, what's next? What can we do next? How can we keep bringing the good stuff? So, yeah.
That's great. And touching on integration, I think that's a massive kind of topic for, a lot of businesses considering adopting PdM, because, as we can all imagine, customers have a complex range of systems already operating.
Yeah.
So would you be able to touch on how well that Senseye Predictive Maintenance can actually integrate into existing systems? You know, are there any kind of hiccups that occur for that instance, or is it seamless?
It's seamless. I mean, we have existing customers who have integrated with Microsoft Teams, for example, and they get their workflows and all of their information and team communications and manager updates all in one place. We have other customers who have integrated Senseye into their CMMS system, so they get a blended view of kind of work orders, things to do, but can also associate that to inventory. Yeah. So you get a wider view on asset management as well. The art of the possible with integration is really limitless. And for us, it's just really understanding, you know, what is going to give the customer more value. Yeah. So yeah, there's lots of options available, and we will work with the customer to understand what's best.
And again, that is great information and super helpful. So just moving on to our final question, probably the most important thing for all businesses investing in a predictive maintenance platform is return on investment. So in your experience, and maybe you could touch on how different industries have measured this, how is return on investment measured using a PdM platform? It'd be really good to hear your experience in that and the metrics that you've have seen that different businesses use. Sure.
So some of the key metrics we focus on is hours of unplanned downtime. That's usually a big focus. So we work with the customer to understand in the initial phases of the project, you know, what is the cost of unplanned downtime? What does that mean to you? Another important element where predictive maintenance can impact, again, is resourcing as well. So cost of resources, out of hours intervention, unexpected intervention, you know, that all carries a cost, especially for skilled labour. Another element as well, when it comes to procurement and parts and materials, so predictive maintenance is proven to improve asset lifetime, give more visibility on asset lifetime. So, for example, a bearing in a gearbox may be getting changed on a preventative maintenance schedule, perhaps every couple of weeks. But with predictive maintenance insights, you might move to maybe changing it once every few months. And so the cost savings through reduced inventory and reduced procurement, again, that is another fantastic measure that we can include. So yeah, those are what I would say are the most important ones, but it really does vary customer to customer, you know, what their overall business objectives are, whether it's cost reduction to become more efficient or to become more sustainable. So we tend to iron those out at the very beginning and set a goal from the very beginning on what we want to achieve.
That's great, yeah, and I can imagine kind of almost going back to the initial phase of a deployment, scoping out those initial goals is the most important part, and that's
yes.
how you can share return on investment when you've set objectives. Without objectives, you can't produce return on investment, so yeah. That is a really great explanation. It would be good just to hear from your experience, are there any industries that kind of tend to aim for specific goals? So have you, in your experience, seen a certain industry have set goals, and have they been able to meet them?
Sure. So for example, automotive, the OEE targets are really important. So being able to manufacture as much as possible within a certain time frame is super important. So any unplanned breakdowns or anything unplanned happening in our operation that they can't forecast or account for is a huge problem to them. So you know, having those insights to enable them to plan maintenance at during close downs or downtimes, or in a way that doesn't impact their normal operation. That's a huge benefit for that industry. In food and beverage, as I mentioned earlier, we typically find they are over maintaining because their margins are quite small, and they need to maximise every opportunity in their operation. As I say, they're typically over maintaining, and by giving them the insights to remaining useful life of parts, we can help them become much more refined and precise in terms of resourcing and parts and all of that good stuff. And then we have, some heavy industry customers who are perhaps under maintaining their equipment and are very reactive in the way that they operate. So again, the insights can just help them be more organised and planned, again, which is going to impact the overall operational efficiency and their bottom line.
That was a great answer, Tamsin. Thank you so much for joining us today. So I guess that wraps up our episode. Again, thank you. You've been a brilliant guest. Thank you, listeners, for joining us, and we'll be back very soon again with another episode of Trends Detection. Thank you and goodbye.
Please like and subscribe on all major podcast channels, and find out more about Senseye Predictive Maintenance at Siemens.com.